Hey, this is Pablo with Meditation Amsterdam. Today I have a little analogy that I wanted to share, which sort of came out of my mouth the other day during a conversation, kind of spontaneously, and seems to fit the topic of self-realization. Incidentally, as I started to make these videos in the past few days, I've been making some very interesting progress in my meditation, and I'm starting to enter what are known as the jnanas, which are states of very deep absorption and stillness of mind, which are very, very cool, and which start to kind of percolate into daily life and make things very pleasant, as a matter of fact. So it's it's an exciting time. Now, what I was thinking of was to compare this whole idea of self-realization with what you could call living at in the eye of a storm, or the eye of a hurricane. Now, I've never lived in hurricane-prone areas. I'm originally from Guatemala, and now I live in the Netherlands. Guatemala was never stormy in a hurricane sense of the word. I think it's been hit by hurricanes like 2 or 3 times in the past, 30, 40 years. And the Netherlands can be pretty windy, but not in a hurricane type of way, but just, the wind just blows when the seasons change. But I think we're all familiar with these maps where you see a hurricane hitting land or going across some islands in the Caribbean or so, and they say that, well, you can see it also in the map of a hurricane. You can see that there's the storm sort of whirling around, and at the very center there's the eye, or the center of the storm, the eye of the storm, and the eye is supposed to be a very, very quiet place, right? It's an utterly neutral place, and it's potentially even free of clouds. You could maybe even see the sun while you're in the eye of the hurricane, even though a storm is hitting and destroying a lot of things in its path. But it's the periphery that's spinning at a very fast speed, and the eye gives you this moment of tranquility before you get the second part of the storm as it goes by your area. And it struck me as very interesting how the people who came up with meditation and who discovered the heart of awareness, so to speak, the center of the mind, realized that the mind is like a storm. So very often we're trying to still the mind or make the mind activity subside, and sometimes we manage that, but no matter how deep our meditations become, the moment we come out of meditation, the fluctuations of the mind begin yet again, and unless jnana or pure knowledge has dawned, or pure insight has dawned in our minds, we go through these periods of calm during meditation, if you're good at it, right? Some people don't even manage that, and then the noise and the stress and the anxiety begin all over again the moment you step out of meditation. And so the way that yoga defines the mind is as unrest. In other words, they don't say that the mind can be calm or anxious. They say that the mind is in itself anxiety and lack of calm, right? So it's not so much that you're trying to modify the way the mind operates, because the way the mind operates, it is a tool that is meant to project itself into past and future and try to anticipate dangerous or uncomfortable situations on the basis of memory. And so it creates problems where there are none in the present moment, trying to anticipate things. And then it makes these, and it's a tool that is supposed to sort of dissect things in logical ways, and to keep doing so over and over and over and over again, which is in essence, the essence of overthinking is the quality of the mind. So the mind is a great problem solver, but just only because it's a great problem maker, right? So those are the two sides of the coin of the mind. So it is in essence a mistake. It is an essential mistake to think that you will quiet your mind, which is what you are trying to do when you're trying to meditate in an uninformed kind of way, because the mind is unrest. In its very essence, the mind operation is the essence of unrest, right? However, in the greater scheme of things, in the greater scheme of the self, the mind is only a part of what you are. And so if you compare it to a hurricane, the mind is the part of you which is spinning in motion all the time and creating all the unrest and all the stormy weather. But you also have the eye of the storm. And so what the Vedas and the ancient yogis realized is that residing in the eye of the storm is the key to happiness, because you are in a sense able to observe the stormy weather in the periphery, but you are in the neutral center from which you can enjoy this peace and this neutrality and this bliss, and you can engage with the periphery consciously and at will and by choice. But you no longer confuse yourself with the periphery, because you have found the eye of the storm within you, and that eye is perfectly still. So you have a selfish vested interest in residing in the eye of the storm of your larger self, right? So how do you do that would be the next question, right? And so meditation starts to give you a glimpse out of that, because what meditation does is it takes the stormy part of the mind, and little by little it gives you glimpses of, it gives you little bits of moving into the eye of the storm, and just a little bit, right? You don't recognize it as the eye at first. You just recognize it as a kind of stillness or a cessation of the movements of the mind. But the mind never really stops moving, not until you get to the latter stages. What starts to happen is, while the mind is moving, you move for little periods of time to the eye of the storm, or to the witness consciousness, and you confuse that with the mind stopping. But what's really happening is that you are residing very briefly in the eye of the storm, and you're able to observe. Or the other thing that could happen, depending on the type of meditation you're doing, is you pick one specific spot of the stormy weather, one very specific spot, and you keep looking at it very intently. And that makes it seem as if the mind has stopped, and that gives you some glimpse of what it is like to be in a more neutral place. As you progress in meditation, you will notice that any observing of the periphery tends to work limitedly. And if you really want to get into the deeper or the more advanced stages of meditation, you won't be able to do so long as you're paying attention to the periphery. But you want to move to the sense of you as the eye of the storm that can, if it so chooses, look at the periphery. But you could also reside just within the eye of the storm, reside in the heart of your awareness. The way to do that is essentially to observe observation itself, or be aware of awareness itself. Now, that starts as a kind of doing. You try to do that, but if you really want to be there, you can't. It's not something you can do, it's only something you can be, because the eye of the storm, as it happens, is the center of yourself, is your true self, so to speak. So you can't do your true self, you can only be your true self. And in order to recite that, the ultimate way to do it is to essentially drop all notions of doing, wanting, desiring, and to exercise ultimate surrender. This is a very interesting exercise. It is almost like you have to let go of even trying to let go. It's the ultimate exercise in surrender, 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 but to do so in a very consistent and if it's interesting because it's a paradox, right? So you could say that you have to make the ultimate surrender. So it's the ultimate effort, if you can call it that, to do nothing, or the ultimate non-doing, the ultimate dropping of all effort, which can be a difficult thing because you can't put effort into it. That already makes it like, so how the hell do you do it then, right? And secondly, because the habit of the mind is to do. You will be constantly trying to make it happen or to do something. And instead what you need to do is simply to drop everything and just observe and just be, but to do so very intently, right? To really, really, really be. It's a paradox. There's no way around it. It's something that needs to be experimented with and attempted over and over again until you get a knack for it. It starts to happen. Something that I have found really works is to use your breath to get there. Now, admittedly, the breath, observing the breath, is still in the periphery, is not the center of the self. But your attitude of how you breathe says a lot about how you are using the mind. If you want the mind to truly subside, the breath needs to truly subside as well. They go hand in hand. Now, to do that, it works especially on the out breath to completely surrender to the out breath, to not blow the air out, to notice every last bit of tension in your body as you are breathing out, and simply let go of it completely every single time. It's going to be very choppy at first, and you're going to notice, oh my God, I thought I had released the breath, but as it turns out, now I actually released the breath, and now I released more. And so just when you thought you had released completely, it turns out to be that there's another level of release that you can get to. Just to give you an idea of how much release needs to be there to really, really release, when you have truly, truly let go of the breath actually stops. If not completely, because I don't know, I could almost claim that I'm not breathing for certain minutes at a time, but it could be that that it's just become so mild that it's utterly imperceptible to me at that point. And it is also very, very distinct because you will lose the feeling of your body as your body, and you will just get this like sensation of energy or energetic sensation, but the body as such will be gone. And you will also get the distinct impression that both your mind and your body are asleep, but you are aware. Yeah, so that's how much surrender needs. So, wherever you are in the surrender journey, that's how much surrender that needs to be to get to the point where you're getting to real depths in this practice. So, anything other than that, you still have a lot of letting go to do. So the surrender of the breath and the letting the body really sink down as you're meditating, either sitting or laying down, and just let all the weight fall. Let gravity just completely take over. That doesn't mean collapsing, right? You could, especially like if you're doing sitting, it means that you keep your structure, but it is not kept through this, but it is kept so that gravity just completely washes through you, and there's not even an inkling of tension in the body, and you can use the release of the breath to just like it just lets go completely every time. And you surrender, 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 but you do so in a continuous and focused way. Now, so surrender is the way to the eye of the storm, right? You can't desire your way into the eye of the storm. You can't work your way into it. You can't work hard at it. You can't do it. You can't, it is an undoing. Undo, 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 until you just are. And your being is knowing as well, yeah? Sat Chit Ananda, being, consciousness, bliss. So being and consciousness are two sides of the same coin. Knowing that you are, or being requires knowing, right? Two sides of the same coin. And when you have both sides playing against each other, or like the Ouroboros, like the snake eating its own tail, being, knowing, then you feel blissful. But it's the entire journey is an undoing journey, all of it, right? You will start meditation by doing meditation, right? Like I will do meditation. I will sit. I will watch my breath. Like that could be, that's first level. You need to do that to acquire enough stability of mind, enough focus, equanimity, and enough presence. But once you have those, once you have enough of that, then the journey is a surrender journey into the center of the self. There's no other way around it. To the degree that you don't understand this, you could do years and years of meditation and never get anywhere, because you're going to be stuck in doing. You'll never discover the self. You'll never be, right? The self is something that is not something that does. I'll repeat that again, right? Just so that it lands. And so the journey of surrender is a very beautiful journey, actually. You start to notice that, so listening, for example, to Alan Watts, if you're a fan of Alan Watts, he says, well, you're in a double bind, right? You're in a bind. You are trying to improve yourself, but how can the self improve itself? It cannot, because if you knew how to be better, you would already be better, right? And so you go like, okay, well, so how the hell do I improve myself then, right? You got to let go of that idea. There is no self to improve itself to begin with, right? You can't. And so the other one is, they all tell you to stop desiring, but the desire to stop desiring is a desire in itself. So all you're really left with is just to watch and witness, and to let go and surrender. That is the path, right? That what gets you out of the double bind is like this. There's a movie where they say that. I can't quite remember the name. There's a movie where they say, this is a strange game. The only way to win is not to play, right? So in other words, the way to enlightenment is the realization that the self that is trying to become enlightened doesn't really exist. So there's no, it's a dropping of the idea of the self. And the way to enlightenment is to realize that no effort will get you there. Therefore, all effort needs to be dropped. It's a dropping off the effort. It's a realization that it is complete surrender that gets you there. In a sense, it's also a trap to try to let go, right? So because then that's something that you're doing. Oh, I'm trying to let go. I'm trying to let go. Good luck with that. Can't do it either. So all you do is you sit back and you surrender completely. You can try to do that through breath and body to educate your mind in what you're trying to do. You can start with the gross again, right? Like if you utterly surrender the body and the breath, your mind will go like, oh, seems like, we just need to kind of step back and let go of things here. Whoever tells you like, oh, you're doing too much spiritual practice is wrong, because if you stop, that's a doing. And whoever tells you you're not doing enough spiritual practice is also wrong, because that's also a doing, right? So you can start by making efforts to educate your mind, make it stable enough, and all those kind of things. But once you get all that, and once you understand that the path is one of surrender, then it's all a matter of just letting go all the time of everything, as a matter of fact. There's one thing that might reassure you of like, well, what happens if I completely let go? Won't the world go to hell in a handbasket, and my life I'll throw my life away? Good luck trying to do that, right? Like good luck trying to not care about things and stuff, or just not get up out of bed in the morning. It's not going to happen. It's very unlikely to happen unless you were already inclined to do that anyway. And the other thing is, if it reassures you, you're not really doing anything. It's being done by your brain. Things are decided by your brain before you even know that they are, right? Like just in the way you put food in your mouth and it somehow gets digested, you put information comes at you. You don't even there's no you to put it in your brain. It comes at you through your senses. The brain processes it, and outcome ideas and decisions. You have nothing. You have absolutely nothing to do with it. You are just the witness in the end. And accepting that and surrendering to it, that's the path to enlightenment. You need to surrender control. You don't really control. You need to surrender the idea that you control things. Yeah. And that brings you into the eye of the storm. So the way to discover the self and to become self-realized and eventually enlightened is to surrender. Surrender, 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 all the way through. So I hope that helps. It's yet another thought, another analogy, another way of seeing this. I try to have 1,000 ways to try to understand this, to soak my mind in the topic, and to be exercising this stuff as a matter of a constant effort. And so my latest game is surrender. So, you know, looks like the system is onto something, right? And so good luck, and I hope this video helps you in your path to meditation. Cheers.